welcome back to my channel. Thanks for being here, guys. It's been a little bit. I've taken about 2 weeks off making YouTube videos just because self-care, but I'm back. I'm going to aim to get out hopefully a video a week. I have some upcoming, just like to keep you in the loop before the video starts, I have some upcoming interviews that I'm doing. So I'm going to be interviewing my great uncle, and we'll be going through some Maori history, which I'm really excited for. But today's video, I wanted to talk about the amazing astronomy news. And I kind of wanted to take you guys through a history of where we've come from in regards to what we know about space, and the history behind that, and then sort of like comparing that to the incredible images that we are seeing on the James Webb telescope. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned, and please think about, you know, clicking that subscribe button below. Cue the music. I am sure that you've seen some pictures from the James Webb telescope that has essentially launched pictures to the public this past week. I will pop some pictures on the screen here of just some of the most beautiful and incredible images that we have taken in all human history of other galaxies, of space phenomenon, of other planets, and stuff that happens on the daily in the solar system. Now, while this is all really breathtaking, I thought it would be super interesting to look at where we came from. And I think when you realize how far we've come, it will breathe new life into these James Webb images. You'll really think, oh my gosh, this is freaking awesome. This comes because I actually got a comment on TikTok that said, meh, I don't really see why it's that exciting. And I was like, excuse me, ma'am. How is this not so yeah, you know what I mean? So to take you back, I have to take you back to ancient Mesopotamia. So we're talking about 1000 through to even, I think, 2000 BCE. We see sort of these ancient stone tablets that show people with shields or circular objects that were observing stars. So this is kind of the, we have this stone tablet of Shamash, who is a depiction of a Mesopotamian sun god from the Babylonian time periods. And you can see in the image that there is imagery of a star. Archaeologists, well, our archaeological records, sorry, show us that astronomy is actually one of the first natural sciences developed by early civilizations all across the globe, which makes sense, you know, back before horrific light pollution took place. Charting the sky was a way of life and a way to survive as well. Now, according to a study done by Matthew Ossendriver, I hope that's pronounced correctly, I'm sorry if it's not, in Mesopotamia, the 5 planets that were visible to the naked eye were studied. So that is alongside the moon, the sun, the stars, and other celestial phenomena such as meteorites and comets and those sorts of things. In Mesopotamia, in the ancient world of Mesopotamia, anything concerning the moon, the planets, the stars, they were iconographically, astronomically, and astrologically as well as religiously intertwined. So we'll often see, as we looked at before, depictions of like sun gods. We'll also see divine beings that were given names after the names for planets. So we have the Akkadian names for the 5 planets: Mercury, which is Setu; Venus, Dilbat; Mars, Salbatanu; White Star, Jupiter; and Kaya Amuna. No, that's wrong. Hang on. Let me try that again. Kaya Amunanu, which is Saturn. So those were sort of first attested in 1800 through to 1000 BCE, as I kind of mentioned before. Zooming along in history, we come to ancient Greece. Now, it was much later in the 3rd century BCE. So we're talking like anywhere from thousands to hundreds of years later. We have Greek astronomers first attempting to use astronomy to estimate cosmic scales. So among other sciences, astronomy really flourished in Alexandria. Now, the cool thing about this happening in the Greek world is that we have influences from the Egyptian world as well. Just like the Mesopotamian societies, the ancient Egyptian different societies studied the night sky as well. One of the cooler facts about Egyptian astronomy is that they were able to take measurements from the stars and align their pyramids with the sun temples and the Earth's 4 cardinal points. This is remarkable. And just goes to show how brilliant these people of ancient society were. I feel like there's sometimes this like modern dogma that we're like super smart now and weren't before. Not true. Like, these people were real smart. Now, similarly to Mesopotamia, the Egyptians believed that the gods that they worshipped lived in Duat, in the kingdom of Osiris, yes. Now that's located in the sky between where Orion, the constellation Orion, and Sirius are in the night sky. So yeah, it's also interesting to see that 3 of the pyramids and 3 of the stars in Orion's belt, which is a term for a constellation, all line up. Like, these ginormous structures line up with the stars. It's pretty freaking cool. The Sphinx as well, which is pretty famous, is also aligned with the Leo constellation, and as we know from archaeology and texts and things, the Nile corresponds to the Milky Way. So again, similarly to the ancient Mesopotamians, ancient Egypt societies believed that astronomy was sacred and that they were viewing gods, and their depictions of that was sacred in nature. So it was very intertwined with religious and iconography and all that sort of stuff. Jumping back forward in time, into the ancient Greeks, we have some cool geometric interesting theories. So there was a theory that was put forth in the ancient Greek times that the Earth was the center of the universe and everything else was revolving around it. So that was kind of the perceived understanding at that point in time, and that held for a really long time. It wasn't for a really long time afterwards that the heliocentric system would come into play, meaning that the belief that the Earth rotates around the sun versus everything rotating around us. In 200 BCE, we have the famed Greek astronomer Hipparchus. He creates the first stellar catalogue, which is the first catalogue of stars. So the record was handed down by Ptolemy, who was an astronomer, 300 years later at Alexandria, and then passed on to be a part of the Roman Empire. So this all comes together, I promise. So basically, Hipparchus actually used the Babylonians, remember the first lot that we spoke about? The Babylonian practice of dividing the circle into 360 degrees and each degree into a 60 arc minutes. And he was able to catalogue with pretty successful attempts the heavens, which basically plotted 850 stars across the sky with precision of about 1 degree, about twice the angular size of the full moon. So he did a pretty good job considering it was all via eyeball. Like, this is pre-telescope, okay? Hipparchus also created the magnitude system for describing the brightness of stars, and we still use that today. Then we start to head into the Middle Ages, or the Dark Ages, if you will. I think historians don't like when we say that. But astronomy flourished in Asia and in the Islamic world, and extensive observations were done in the Chinese and Indian empires. Islamic scholars in this middle period during the Common Era built exquisite astronomical instruments to measure the angles in the sky, and they improved on the measuring devices and the measuring mathematics that they had, or that was originally proposed by Ptolemy. Now, in a catalogue of 994 stars that was created by Ulugh Beg of the Timurid dynasty in the 15th century, he bettered, obviously, the previous catalogue of stars in this feat. Then sort of ushers in the European Renaissance, where we start to see the flow of discoveries and inventions from other cultures coming into the territory of Europeans, and this revival of science starts to happen in Europe. Now, astronomy obviously was at the forefront of this revival. Now, it was very difficult in these times, in some cases, to propose new scientific finds if they went against the Roman Catholic Church. So we see some tug and pull, I don't know. I just feel like we could have moved faster, but we didn't, you know. 1564, we have the birth of Galileo Galilei, who was a inventor and astronomer, and he discovered that there was craters and mountains on the moon, that there was phases in Venus, that Jupiter had moons, and that the Milky Way was full of stars. Now, Galileo championed the Copernican, I believe it's called, Heliocentricism, which basically means that the Earth spins or rotates once a day and it revolves around the sun, that not everything revolves around the Earth, which was still the belief in this time period. Now, this was met with really strong opposition from the Catholic Church, and the matter was investigated by the Roman Inquisition in 1615, which concluded that heliocentrism was foolish, heretical, and contradicted Holy Scripture. Yeah, then Galileo was kind of like, you know, put in prison until he died. There's a lot more to this, like the theory of tides, sunspots, controversy over comets, all sorts of things, but we're gonna keep it like kind of macro, okay? Then comes the age of reason and a lot of, I don't know, basically summarizing, the heliocentric model was eventually accepted as the model because we do, in fact, revolve around the sun. Let's just leave it there. Be right back. Now let's get into the evolution of the telescope. It's kind of up in the air who actually invented the first one, but a pretty well, I guess, studied theory is that it was Hans Lippershey, who was a glassmaker. And he basically made a convex objective lens that allowed him to see. And it was put into a pole? I don't know. That's where we'll be beginning. Then there was the Keplerian telescope that was devised in 1611. Then Isaac Newton builds the first reflecting telescope. I will put a picture of this bad boy up here on the screen because this is really where we started. Then Chester Hall just solves the color distorting issue that happens. I'm not going to go into too much detail, frankly, because this whole like light issue thing kind of like blows my mind. But the first gigantic telescope was not invented until 1789. That's correct, friends. And this is she. Pretty cute, huh? And then in the 1800s, we started building buildings, entire buildings that were telescopes, such as Burgh Castle. Then Wisconsin pushed the limits in 1897 with this big mother effer. Excuse my French. We then invented radio telescopes, Lovell's telescope, which was giant, and then we finally get to the Hubble telescope. Now, this is where people are like, I don't understand the difference between the Hubble, blah, 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 blah. So let me show you the difference. I have on the screen pictures of the differences of, essentially, from what I can gather, the Hubble took a few different bits of light. You know, it was fine. We learnt a lot. But as you can see from this comparison picture, the James Webb telescope is able to, in such bigger detail, show us what's really going on. Now, that's got to do with very fancy things. I'm not going to try to explain it because, frankly, I don't really know. All I do know is that it's able to kind of communicate, that's the wrong word, it's able to take infrared light and stuff that we visibly can't see and translate that light into a picture so that we can then sort of see what's going on, which is pretty freaking cool, right? Because we literally started from just looking up at the sky and doing some math equations and, you know, worshipping these celestial beings as gods. And today we can see into other galaxies. That's pretty friggin' amazing. I can't wait to see what comes out in the next decade or two. because you think about how much work was done with the Hubble telescope when it comes to finding other planets that might be conducive of life. Imagine what we're going to be able to do with the James Webb. Pretty humbling, pretty cool. If you enjoyed the video, I would love it if you could subscribe. You can find me on Instagram or TikTok on the same handle, no matter where you go on the web, at Taniberlo. If you want to get down and dirty with us into ancient Egypt at the moment, come and join my Patreon. It's a subscription-based platform and it's the only money I make on the internet. I don't make money from this or from TikTok, which is kind of sad, but anyway. It's a small subscription fee of like $8 to $10 a week, depending on the country you live in and whatever. And you get access to our very active Discord group where we talk about mental health, books, nerdy things, history, etc. and where we have a history club. I would love to see you there. So thank you for watching the video and I will see you next time. Bye!